Dombrowski, everybody. Joe Dombrowski. A lot of people may not know this, but I'm gonna spill the beans for you right now. This is the mind behind Prime Wrestling, okay? This guy, Josh, great. All these guys have spent countless hours trying to give you guys some of the best entertainment you've ever seen. Joe Dombrowski is one of the greatest minds in this business, and I hope and I pray one day that on a big stage, people can find out about that, because he deserves it, because he works extremely hard. Please, everyone, give Joe Dombrowski the appreciation he finally deserves.
Hour number 2 here at the Pro Wrestling Experience on ChicagolandSportsRadio.com. I'm Joshua Lopez. Hope you guys been enjoying the show so far. You heard it right there. One of the most underappreciated, hardest working professional wrestling broadcasters out there, Joe Dombrowski, and he's our first guest of the day. Joe, how are you doing today?
I'm feeling great. Thank you very much for having me on the show. And I tell you what, those sound bites really take me back to some pretty special, pretty powerful moments. I appreciate you throwing those in. But I appreciate you most of all for having me on the show, and I hope you guys are doing well.
We're doing fantastic, and we played that clip from Prime Wrestling, which everybody that doesn't know, you were the play-by-play commentator for Prime Wrestling. Tell us a little bit about Prime Wrestling and what made it stand out from different independent organizations in the world.
Well, Prime Wrestling was a company that was formed in 2007, primarily as a television vehicle, airing on the Sports Time Ohio regional cable network, which was pretty much the official station of the Cleveland Indians. And what I think made the organization so special is that we were able to create so much with such limitations. From a budget standpoint, from a very, very young roster when we first started, we were able to grow to do iPay-per-views, international television and DVD distribution, a partnership with WrestleZone, one of the most widely read wrestling websites in the world. And it was really a consistent, positive growth for 6-some-odd years. And unlike a lot of independents, which can be kind of fly-by-night or disjointed, we really emphasize very long, deep story arcs and presenting our characters and presenting our stories and building to it with Supercard every year that we called Resolution, which was pretty much our WrestleMania. So it really fused independent ideology along with the ideology that a major promotion would have as well. And I think for its time period, we had some very, very good content.
Absolutely. I mean, also bringing in great talent as well. I mean, for those who don't know, before Luke Harper started in the WWE, he was Brody Lee out in the independents, and of course with Prime Wrestling. Also, another popular independent star that I've seen around here in the Chicago area recently was Marion Fontaine. For those that never knew Marion Fontaine, how would you best describe him, Joe?
Best way you could describe Marion Fontaine is not necessarily judging a book by its cover, because you look at the guy and you see him, physique-wise, he's not much to look at. And he's got this overbearing, obnoxious mustache on his face, and he's got this look about him that just makes you want to write him off, But he was a guy who really stood up and made everybody take notice of him. And some of the most really famous moments that we had in Prime Wrestling in Ohio involved Marion Fontaine. He was the guy that when Hacksaw Jim Duggan came to town, Fontaine was wrestling him. When Kevin Nash came to town, Fontaine was wrestling him. When Luke Harper came to town, he teamed with Marion Fontaine. And, when we had our partnership with WrestleZone and Justin LaBar, Fontaine was the first guy to stand up and say, you know what, I don't like you. And Justin LaBar's war of words with Marion Fontaine back in say 2011 or so, really caught the internet as far as professional wrestling goes. Really caught the internet by storm. And Fontaine, he's very confident. He's very loud. But to his credit, he backs up most of what he says.
Absolutely. And speaking of Justin LaBar, a former guest here on the show, that storyline really put Prime Wrestling over the top, especially with the big events that you guys put on over the years. Now, I want to transition you towards your career. There's always one question I ask for every guest when we get into the meat of the interview. What does professional wrestling mean to you personally?
Oh, wow. I mean, personally, it's been a part of my life since I was 5 years old. You know, it's something that has always been there for me, regardless of, you know, whether I needed it for entertainment value, whether I needed it to escape the real world, whether I needed it to, find something to pass the time, whatever it is. Wrestling has always been a major part of everything I've done and everything I've thought about. And, to me, it's a dream come true that I'm able to work so closely and so much in a business I've followed my whole life. And it really is, the best word I can come up with is it's just passion.
Joe Dombrowski is live here on the Pro Wrestling Experience on ChicagolandSportsRadio.com every Wednesday, 10 to 1 with yours truly, Josh Lopez. Check out his website, www.joe-dombrowski.com, and also on Twitter, Joe_Dombrowski. Now I wanted to transition a little bit about commentary. What is some of the biggest lessons and challenges that you've learned over your time commentating?
Well, the biggest issue I've found on an independent level is that a lot of wrestling promoters will hire, and I use that in air quotes, a commentator who is extremely inexperienced and does not take the job seriously. Obviously, at one point I was extremely inexperienced, and I didn't know what I was doing. But I took the job very seriously and wanted to learn my craft. Anybody that thinks it is just sitting there and staring at a ring and commenting on the moves that you're seeing does not understand the job at all. It goes a lot deeper than that as far as presenting the characters, presenting the stories, and articulating that in the proper way, and to be the verbal narrator of the physical story that you're watching in the ring. So to me, the challenge is just, more than anything else, kind of navigating through that minefield of people that do versus don't understand what that job is, and showing that, you know what, a great commentator can make a bad match watchable,
yes.
And a bad commentator can make a great match unwatchable. And I've tried to, have a very professional but entertaining and informative approach to everything I've done, because I have the utmost respect for the guys in that ring. They're sacrificing their bodies, and they don't deserve the type of announcer that's going to talk about themselves or try to make lame inside jokes or, just talk in a monotone or anything else. I try to rise up and make myself better and hopefully make everybody else better in the process.
Absolutely. It's all about storytelling. And I know that you've done a couple of big productions, documentaries. We'll get to that in a minute. Back with the commentary, what would you consider your biggest pet peeve when it comes to announcing?
Oh, man. It's so tough to narrow down all the things that I've done. I'm very proud of my work in Ring of Honor, which was a big opportunity for me to rise to the occasion and to have a chance to work with guys like, at various points, Kevin Kelly and Jim Cornette, and lately this year, Steve Corino, has been a major honor. And, I personally feel that Ring of Honor keeps getting better year by year. and they keep building more and more momentum, and they keep finding this great young talent. And sometimes I don't know how they do it, but that stands out to me. I was in Border City Wrestling this past weekend in Canada, and also earlier in the year. And earlier in the year, I was working with Matt Stryker. And this past week, I was working with the franchise Shane Douglas. And those are some very big crowds and some very high-quality shows as well, and that absolutely stands out to me. And I'll also give a nod to the Masked Mania pay-per-view. I made my pay-per-view debut earlier this year. Kevin Kleinrock, a great live event producer, had a chance to work with Leonard F. Jacarison of Jakara fame, and also Sean Waltman, X-Pac, sat in a little bit as well.
Nice.
And that was a challenge for me because that was the first ever Lucha Libre event in Philadelphia presented in English. So that was a whole different style and a whole different, method of research and a whole different group of talent and style of wrestling as well. And, it was something that I really hadn't done before, but from what I've been told and the feedback I've gotten, it came out really well, not just from the announce table, but certainly the in-ring performance was fantastic, too. So I would say all of those moments equally really have a special place in my heart for what I've been able to do in recent times.
What can you? What do you want to see go down in Final Battle? I know we're on the road down to it. Jay Briscoe's the current ROH World Champion. Should be an interesting show, especially the fact that Final Battle will be out of the Hammer Steam Ballroom this time. What are you looking forward to for this year's Final Battle?
Really, more than anything else, I'm looking forward to the fact that is one of those times every year where the Ring of Honor roster knows that this is something very, very special. Final Battle, the anniversary show, events like that really light a fire under the talent and allow them to step up. And I think added to that is the fact you'll be able to watch the event from home on a traditional pay-per-view is huge as well for Ring of Honor to present their second ever live pay-per-view. I believe the first one was very critically acclaimed, Best of the World, back over the summer. But Jay Briscoe's made history because he is one of two men who have been two-time Ring of Honor World Champions. It's him and Austin Aries. So I'm looking forward to see who's going to step up because the Ring of Honor roster has such a deep level of competition, from AJ Styles to Adam Cole. Matt Seidel's back on the scene as well, and Matt's a guy I had a chance to see a couple of weeks ago, of course, the former Evan Bourne, and the energy and the athleticism that he brings to the table. How is he going to shake things up? But really my favorite thing right now has been watching the tag teams. And the influence of not just Ring of Honor, but New Japan Pro Wrestling as well. Guys like Red Dragon, the Young Bucks. The Young Bucks may be the hottest act in independent professional wrestling right now.
Yes.
And for my money, I think Kyle O'Reilly may be the most underrated talent in wrestling right now. And that says a lot considering he's a champion. And that's not to discount Bobby Fish either. I think Bobby Fish is only getting better as well. But you put that recipe together, you throw in a New York crowd, and you put it on pay-per-view, you can't help but be part of something special.
The Montreal Theory, that's your baby, a big project, and it's got a lot of feedback. I just wanted to know, what has the Montreal Theory documentary meant to you, and how fun was it making the documentary?
I always enjoyed conspiracy theories, whether it's JFK or really anything, you'd find on Jesse Ventura's TV show. I've always been fascinated by them. I don't necessarily believe all of them. I'm not necessarily the guy with the tinfoil on his head hiding in his basement. But I do think if you can give me some tangible, pragmatic evidence, I think there is a lot of merit to a lot of these things. I do believe it's very possible that the government can lie to you. I do believe it's very possible there could be a coup and a cover-up. And guys like Jesse and Michael Moore and Bill Maher, and whether you agree with them personally or ideologically is really irrelevant. I do admire the fact that they stand up and they speak their mind, and they say, you know what, this is what we've been fed as the truth, and I don't necessarily buy it, and here's why. And I think that dissension is very important in helping our country continue to improve and continue to be stronger. And I wanted to tie that into wrestling and put a little bit of an entertaining spin on it. Obviously, the real-world problems far outweigh the problems of professional wrestling. Mm-hmm. But I wanted to tell that story because I'd always heard that Steve Corino had not believed the official story of Bret Hart and Vince McMahon being at odds and Vince screwing Bret. And I started looking into it, and I watched Wrestling with Shadows, and I read Dave Meltzer's account of the whole issue, and I started thinking to myself, you know what, there's some questions here that don't add up. How does Bret not see this coming if Vince is sitting ringside next to the bell? How does this happen when there's conveniently a documentary crew filming Bret? Why did Vince and Bret discuss this match ending a week before it happened, as documented by Meltzer, who got most of his information from Bret? There's a lot of suspicious things there that I think not necessarily prove one side or the other, but are very much worth discussing and debating. So I got together a panel of really some of the most intelligent wrestling minds that I knew of from every era, every job title, and let's debate this, because when you've got people like Steve Corino, Tony Mamaluke, who's a great friend of mine, very underrated, trained by the Malenko family, and Brian Krasman, who spent many, many years here in Pittsburgh as a television host and newspaper writer. Mm-hmm. You have guys with those credentials that are claiming, well, something's not right here, this doesn't add up, it's a little bit too perfect, and everybody wins. There's no victim here. To me, it's worth looking into, and I think from the response, a lot of people agree, because it's been far and away the most successful DVD I put out, and to me, still, it's the most thought-provoking story, because a lot of people have told me, you know what, I came into this with a certain opinion, but, man, watching the Montreal Theory just opened my mind, man, now I don't know what to think. And I think that's really cool that we can make people think of a reality that maybe they didn't before think was possible, and if they can apply that to wrestling, and then later on apply that to their real lives and maybe how they look at the media or the government or religion or Wall Street, I think that could help the world in an even bigger way.
11-year pro of professional wrestling, Joe. So I just wanted to know from you personally, what's been your greatest experience during this past 11 years?
I have to look at Ring of Honor as being near or at the top of that list. Being able to be a part of Ring of Honor validates every piece of work I put into this, every ounce of sweat, every sacrifice, every long night spent trying to improve my craft or get my name out there. To be with the one of the largest promotions in the United States and be able to broadcast such memorable matches, maybe the most memorable being Tyler Black, Seth Rollins, and Davey Richards back in 2010, but so many others since then and before then. To me, that shows that hard work pays off, because I'm not somebody that anybody, I don't think, thought would be something in this business. I came into the business from the fans, promoting a show in my hometown, and from there, I started writing for the IWC Wrestling website, and from there I started commentating, and it was a long journey to earn that respect and be looked at as an equal, and looked at as somebody that wasn't just a fan, snuck in the back door. But again, that state of mind and the fact that I was never happy just being in the business. I wanted to be the best at what I do. not to coin a phrase from somebody far more successful than me, was very, very helpful there. And looking at the fact I've been able to work with Jim Cornette and Shane Douglas and Steve Carino and Joel Gertner and do some of these great DVDs to tell the life story of Zach Gowen. Talk about how he beat cancer and drug addiction and has found his purpose in life now in the Finding Zach Gowen DVD. I mean, so many things really. To be able to be the executive producer and the booker and the host of PWO and Prime Wrestling in Cleveland. At the end of the day, to me, if I can tell you a story and make you feel something on some level, I've done my job. And that, to me, is the coolest thing that I can do, that I can sell you a DVD or call a match that you'll watch on DVD or online and make you feel something, whether you're mad, you're glad, you're sad, or you've been had. If I can give you an experience and take you on that emotional roller coaster, that really is what the business is all about. It's about emotion, and it's about that a never-ending search for the answer to that question that you never quite find. And if I've been able to give that to anybody over the years, then to me that's a great gift, because I remember being a fan at home and listening to Gorilla Monsoon or Bobby Heenan or Jim Ross and how something they said would have registered with me and made me feel something. So if I could give anybody at home that, then I'm very proud and happy to have done so, and hope I can do that again and again.
Joe, this personally from me, getting to see you perform over the years and growing up. I just turned 20 and graduated from broadcasting school in March, and you've been one of my biggest inspirations for wanting to be in wrestling business. And lastly, before we let you go, what advice would you have for people that are interested in being a announcer or a broadcaster in wrestling?
Well, okay, I'll give you two pieces of advice. Number one piece of advice is probably don't do it, because the issue is it's so difficult to find work and progress, and really get your name out there, because you're not on the posters, you're not on the DVDs. You're sometimes, when you're doing your job right, you're kind of an afterthought. So it's a very difficult balance to find. But if you want to do it anyway, and I'm not going to tell anybody to not follow their dream or not try to achieve their goals, because I think life is all about doing what makes you happy and being true to yourself as long as you don't hurt anyone else, and having that positive energy and belief in yourself to press forward. I think the biggest advice I can give you is take the job very seriously, talk to talent, talk to the office, really immerse yourself in what you're doing, immerse yourself in the story, and never, ever, ever stop learning when it comes to the nuances of our business. Wrestling psychology and human psychology are the exact same thing. So the more you understand people and the more you understand how they think, the better you can understand how to convey the story and be a great broadcaster. But it takes many, many years to develop. I can't say master or perfect, because I don't think those two words are possible. I certainly haven't done either. But if you're going to do it, make sure you're in it for the long haul, and most of all, make sure you love wrestling, because you'll be sitting there for 2, 3, sometimes 4 or more hours calling the shows, and sometimes they're not always that great, depending on where you go. But if you really want it and you really put the dedication into it, nothing is impossible.
Joe, it's been an honor and privilege to have you on the show today. Follow Joe Dombrowski on Twitter at Joe_Dombrowski. Check out the website, joe-dombrowski.com. 3 great DVDs, the Montreal Theory, the Zach Gowen documentary, and also Pro Wrestling 101 with former guest in the show, Jimmy Corderas. Joe, thank you so much, and I hope you enjoyed your time here on the show.
Thank you. We'll do it again sometime. My pleasure.